Hi, and welcome to Chapter 1 of Get Going Training with Excel. In front of you, you see Microsoft Office for the PC. If you have a Mac, it'll be laid out a little bit differently, but don't worry, the functionality is the same. Microsoft Excel is a tool for you to analyze data in any shape, way, or form, whether it's text, numbers, or even graphics for more of the advanced features. What I'd like to do, first off, when working with Excel is to have a mouse that has two buttons. I'll be using the right mouse button to get through these functions a lot quicker than normal. So let's get started. This is the main screen of Excel. It is laid out in rows and columns. The rows are numbered from 1 to about 600,000, and the columns are labeled from A to Z to AAA and triple Z. Each cell contains a single set of words or numbers. You can type in anything here, any number, by just clicking on it and started typing. Now, if you notice, when I start typing, the text comes in the cell A1, but also comes into this area right here called the equation bar. We'll be explaining more about the equation bar later, but I want to get you familiar with the basic layout. So pretty much you'll be working with cells designated by their row and column designators, numerical or alphabetical. You have the basic layout, just like any Office tool. You have your clipboard, your font, your alignment. This is the cell designator. This is like the number features. Then you have the style of the cell. This is how, if you want to insert or edit cells, you can do it here. Or if you want to filter cells or sort them around, this is this function here. And you can get a little bit deeper into the different functionalities, but for this chapter, we're just going to stick on the home screen. So let's say I wanted to estimate my monthly expenses. So let me put down today's month, July, and see how I'm designating it in column B, row 1. And then I'm going to put expenses here. So let's start with rent. Hit enter, and you go to the next cell. Let's try electricity. We'll do gas. We'll do water. And let's try cell phone, just to keep it simple. I'm going to show you a quick little function that will help you out. Notice how I typed in the month July. You also look at the cell. It has this little box here. If I click and hold down on that box and drag over, you notice how Excel is automatically saying what month to fill in. Isn't that neat? So it automatically knew that I was dealing with months, and since I'm dealing with multiple columns, it said, oh, I'm just going to automatically fill in the next preceding month. You'll see that Excel has a lot of these built-in features that aren't necessarily apparent that I'm going to show you to save you a lot of time. But we're going to go ahead and delete these right now because we don't need them. So for the month of July, rent, I'm going to say rent was $1,000, so I'm put 1,000. Electricity for this month was about $60. Gas, I drive way out of the city, so that's $120. Yikes. Water, about $30. Cell phone, I have an iPhone, so that's $120. And I want to make a total. In this cell, I'm going to add the total of all these cells. So to do that, to initiate a formula, I'm going to say this cell equals something. As soon as you type in the equal sign, you're telling Excel that you want the cell to do a computation. So cell B7 equals the sum, since we're adding, of, and you'll notice Excel tells you how to format the equation, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So again, cell B7 equals the sum of, open parentheses, B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus B5 plus B6. Now once I'm done with that equation, I'm going to close the parentheses and then hit enter. And there's my total. Now, yeah, that's good, but that took me a while to select all the cells. Let's say I'm trying to compute 100 different values. That will take a long time. And just like math and equations, there's multiple ways of solving a problem. This is the most basic way of adding the sum of multiple cells. Another way of doing it is an auto sum feature. So I'm going to delete my equation. And again, I'm going to also add the sum. But instead of clicking individual cells, I'm going to click the first cell. And with that same drag feature that I showed you earlier with the months, I'm going to select the lower right-hand corner of the cell, hold it down, and drag the entire amount of the cells that I want to add in the sum function, close the parentheses, hit enter, and there's my total, the same as if I was to select all the cells individually. Now, Oops, I forgot my gym membership because, got to keep good for the ladies. I'm going to select one of the rows, right click, and I'm going to go down to insert. And what the insert command does is inserts a row above where you selected. Let me just insert another row underneath cell phone. Again, right click on row 7, hit insert, and you have a new row blank. So I'm going to type in gym membership here. It's about $40. Then I'm also going to add insurance. And I'm going to put that one down for $100. Now, if you notice that the sum already added these features, how is that possible? If I click on the cell B9 again, click on the formula bar, it'll bring up this blue box. And what this blue box is telling me is it's linked to the formula of the sum. And since I inserted cells inside of that blue box, Excel automatically assumes that I want to add them into the equation, which is really, really handy if you're doing a lot of different computations. Now you notice, if I was to add this outside of the equation, let's say if I added here food, I put $200 down, that wouldn't add in that equation. So when you're doing your equations, make sure you look at the color of the box linked to your formula bar to make sure all the data you're looking for is within the equation. And if you're doing multiple cells, like I'm going to add another cell here, you'll notice that Excel assigns different colors. It's very easy to tell what cells are in what part of the equation based on its color. I'm going to select total and the amount. I'm going to go up to the font menu and hit bold, just like any word processing. And I'm also going to go up to July and hit bold. But I want to do something different. See how July is shifted to the right and there's this blank spot here? I'm going to use what's called the merge cell function so that July is in the center of these two columns. I'm going to select July and the cell adjacent to it. I'm going to go up to the merge cell function and click that, and you notice how July is now centered on the two columns. And if I click on the cell, since it's merged, it's both in A, B1 instead of just A1 or B1. This is useful if you're trying to name multiple columns into one set of data, or if you want to collate data in a certain format, or if you have just a different layout and you want to maintain consistencies when you're sorting multiple things that you're trying to lay out. All right, so now that we have that all set up, I'm going to make this, this is not quite finished. This is a currency that I'm trying to calculate because this is my monthly expense. So to do that, an easy way to do that is to select all the cells in the series, again, by holding down your mouse button, your left mouse, dragging downward, and then once you have that all selected, let go of your left mouse button, right click, and go down to Format Cells. Now in this screen, you're going to see all the different ways you can display information on a cell. By default, it's set to general, which means that whatever you type in that cell is what it's going to be. If I set it to numbers, anything that I type in that cell is going to default to numbers. So if it was like 1,000, for example, and I have 2 decimal points, it's going to be 1,000.00. Same with, if it's a date, if I type in a string of numbers, it's going to format it accordingly. Percentages, time, etc., etc. Right now we want currency because we're trying to calculate monthly expenses. So let's click the currency. And since we're dealing with whole numbers, we'll just, we'll add the cents there. Decimal places too. And since we're dealing with dollars, we'll have the dollar sign. But if you're anywhere else, you could select whatever currency signal is appropriate for your country. I'm just going to hit OK. And look at that. It automatically formats the cells with a currency standard. So it looks like I'm at $1,470 for the month of July. This is pretty good. Now, let's say I wanted to print this out. An easy way to do that is set the printing area. If I hit print and I have multiple sets of data on the screen, Excel doesn't know what data you want to see. So you have to set what's called the printing area so that you're telling Microsoft Excel exactly what you want to see. So in order to do that, select all the cells that are important to you, in this case, the month of July. And we're going up to the Microsoft Home button. Go to print, and go to the print preview. Now if you notice that it's printing exactly what I want. If there is more data on the screen, it would only print the data that I have selected. Now if you notice, the print preview is printing exactly what I want it to show. And normally if I have a printer installed, I just hit print. Oh, I'm going to do one more thing before I hit save. I'm going to add a border to this to make it look a little bit more professional, because I want to keep this this book going, for the months preceding. In order to do that, I'm going to go up to the border option right here. I'm going to click the down arrow, and it's going to show me all these different options for the borders that I can add to my cell. This is purely visual. This doesn't add information. It just helps me to better visualize the data on the screen. And a good tip to use when you're adding borders to your cells is to work from the inside out. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go on. So in the mindset of working inside out, I'm going to select all the cells on the inside. I'm going to add a basic border. So let's see, it's all broken up like that. And then I'm going to go to the outside, again, selecting it all. And I'm doing a thick outside border. If you notice that the outside is now bordered. And I'm also going to add a big border around July and also the total, just to kind of have that stand out. So you notice how that kind of, accentuates the day a little bit and helps me focus in on exactly what the costs are. One more thing I can also do is select the total and go to the highlight option or the fill color, and I'll do that a yellow so that he stands out even more. So once I have this all ready to go and I have all my expenses for the month of July, I'm going to hit save by going up to the disk icon and just hitting save, or hitting the office button, save as Excel workbook. In this case, Get Going Training 1. We're doing monthly expense, and then hit enter. And this concludes chapter 1 of Get Going Training with Excel.